We want to now shine the spotlight on 4 millennials who have overcome various adversities, from sexual abuse and cancer to mental health issues, as well as taking up caregiver duties at 14. These individuals have shown courage and resilience, and they are the recipients of the Straits Times Generation Grit Award 2019. Now organized by the Straits Times and sponsored by reassurance company Swiss Re, the award celebrates young people in their 20s to mid-30s who have overcome major adversities in their lives to help themselves and their families and also give back to society in their own way. The 4 individuals were among 21 nominees featured in ST's fortnightly Generation Grit series last year. Each of the 4 will receive $5,000 and a trophy. In light of the circuit breaker, though, there won't be an award ceremony, but we will be speaking to each of them very shortly. So without further ado, the 4 recipients are Melissa Chan, Asha Lo Mei Ting, and B. Carnage. Congratulations to you all. So let's learn a bit more about Melissa and Asha first.
My dad was diagnosed when I was 14 years old. My dad was always a very sociable person. He enjoyed having dinner parties. In the earlier stages, he was actually diagnosed with depression first. So he was very withdrawn. He didn't really enjoy meeting his friends anymore. But it was only until he went missing on one of his business trips that we realized that it was more than depression.
I was 8 years old when my father passed away. He was like a person who would give everything for me. But I remembered thinking to myself, what am I going to do from here on? What's going to happen to me? And I think growing up, it did affect me because I never had that father figure. It was always the me against the world kind of mentality.
So, Asha and Melissa, we want to hear more about each of your initiatives, but let's go back first to what inspired you to set up these projects in the first place. So, Melissa, let's start with you. Your father was diagnosed with young onset dementia when you were just 14 years old. On the one hand, you wanted to care for your father, but on the other hand, I guess you wanted what other teenagers want, a social life and have fun with your friends. So, how did you feel having to reconcile both aspects?
Hey, yeah, so I think personally in my own experience, having gone through that journey, it's only now that I realize that it is a very isolating journey. When I was 14 years old and in my teens and went through it, it was often just doing whatever it took to be able to care for dad and help support mom in caring for him. So, we weren't equipped with the right information. We didn't know what was happening to dad. We didn't know, what dementia was, and it was tough to find information online. And with that, when you start seeing, a loved one, your father, starting to display certain symptoms of dementia and not understanding why, you naturally feel a certain level of guilt and having to, be around more and support the family a little bit more. So with that, then there's that constraint of that push and pull and that tension between, wanting to be at home and caring for a parent, and then wanting to grow up and be exposed to newer life opportunities. So it was tough. I guess we, as siblings and myself, we just went along with it. But it was only, after that passed on and many years later when I started learning more about dementia and the experiences that I realized how it impacted me.
Well, Asha, let's bring you into this conversation. You struggled with body image issues and were feeling that you weren't enough for a very long time. Perhaps this is something that teenagers and young adults can relate to. So, but things started getting better for you when you found religion. So, what would you do or change if you could go back in time?
I think honestly, having the ability to look back with hindsight, I wouldn't change too much. Yeah, because who I am now is really based on the experiences that I have. The people that I'm impacting now is also because of the experiences that I have. And if anything, it would really be to spend a little bit more time with people that I care about, and spend a little bit more time with doing things that make more impact. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
no, go
yeah.
ahead, Asha. Asha, you can continue with your story.
Yeah, okay. I would say that in essence, I know people have difficulties with their own backgrounds often. There are always things that we can go back and change. And growing up, or in the past few years in my early 20s, I always imagined that it would be great if I could go back in time and make changes in my life. But now where I am right now, it's a lot easier to look back and say that, hey, that was those experiences were needful. Yeah, and those experiences were needful for me to be at the place where I am now and impact the clients, the people, the youths at the level that we are impacting them at now.
Right. Well, your initiative, Limitless, aims to encourage young people who need help to seek it. But in terms of operations, how does it differ from other organizations of a similar nature?
I think in terms of Limitless, the key thing that we do that is different is that we meet youths where they are. We make it as easy as possible for youth to seek help, right? And if that means that we go out and meet them at the coffee shop instead of having counseling in a counseling room, we do that. If it means that we are going out to meet them at their schools, or it means that we are meeting them below their void deck and doing the therapy there, that's what we do. If it means that we have to do it on WhatsApp and we do it via phone call, then we have to do it that way. So that's one of the main areas in which we do things very differently, and we find that there's a good response from the youths because they feel that their needs are being met
I
and they are
see.
not afraid to be confined within the four walls of a counseling room. I mean, another thing that we do very differently is that we make it a point to ensure that every young person gets the help that they need. And if that means that they come from a semi-abusive family or a family that that makes it difficult for them to seek help, for example, if the counselor or the agency says that, oh, you cannot seek help without getting your parents' approval, um, we decided not to do it that way, but instead, like, hey, let's work with you and let's eventually reach a point whereby we can work with your parents. But if anything happens or if there's any emergency, we will need to inform someone.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, tell us about your initiative, Project We Forgot. How did your own experience make you deliberately want to come up with this idea to help others? Was there any specific incident that you recall when you interacted with your father that helped you spark the idea?
Yeah, so I think with Project We Forgot, that was really a sum of the experiences that I had gone through with my dad. So with my dad's journey, that was about 10 years, where he was living with dementia. And over that 10 years, at different stages, it's very, very different. In the earlier stage, he's still high functioning. He's still able to go out. Sometime a couple years later, he would, slowly start showing progression. And then there were times where he forgot how to get back home, or he would forget our names, or he would lose certain abilities of doing his daily activities of daily living. So I guess over the 10 years, there were a lot of experiences. And throughout that 10 years, there was always that question mark of like, are there other families that are going through a similar experience? And how can we get connected to these families? Yeah, so I think, after Dad passed on, my background was in communications and branding. And I also realized through research and through having access to a lot more of internet and being able to search things online, that there was a lot of information about dementia, but very little that touches on the human experiences and what people go through during that journey. So most of the information was very medical focused. So from there, I think that largely inspired the work that we do around advocacy and awareness. Trying to lower barriers to entry to help people get support. Help change perception of what dementia is, help change perception of what caregiving for a loved one with dementia is, and in a way increase that support levels for caregivers. Yeah, so essentially, that really is the work that we do.
Well, Melissa and Asha, thank you very much. Congratulations, and we hope you'll be able to put the $5,000 to good use to further your causes. We haven't forgotten about the other pair of award recipients, Mei Ting and Carnage. Here are their stories.
I can only recount that, I was being touched when I sleep at night. I didn't know what was right and wrong. It was being repeatedly. Then my aunt came to discover when she found that every time after I came back from my mom's place, I'll be very moody. So she actually came to discover that I was abused, and she brought this case up to the police.
My passion was to become a pilot, and I really like planes a lot. So I have plenty of photos of me with planes since young. It was during my PSLE period, so it was pretty tough period for me, and it took about 1.5 years of treatment to actually come out of it.
So we welcome Mei Ting and Carnage. Mei Ting, let's start with you. Thank you for sharing your inspiring story. We understand that you went for counselling for 10 years. Was there a distinct moment during the counselling sessions that sparked a change that encouraged you to speak up about your abuse?
I would say it's a progressively process throughout my years of counseling. When I was in primary school, my counselor once shared a book with me on how this individual managed to put down her past and speak up. I was young back then and was not ready. I had a lot of worries like my mom would abandon me, how would I be able to face my friends in school, and so forth. But deep down, I was quite impressed with her courage and I yearned to be like her. Moving on, when I was in secondary school, where we have assembly talks, where our school would invite all the inspiration figures under a part of a character and citizenship curriculum. So all this school resilience workshop helps me to build on my confidence and self-esteem. And plus, I also read up on motivation stories and articles that allows me to actually share with my stories today with everybody.
Well, Carnage, over to you. You had cancer at 11 years old, recovered, and then it returned a decade later. So what was your first reaction when you found out that the cancer had come back?
Okay, it was overwhelming to know that something you thought you can put behind yourself has come back again and disrupt your life once again. But this time I was better able to respond to it as I'm much more mature compared to when I was young. Since I'm generally characterized to be a problem solver, I started thinking of how I can organize myself and all the things that took a hold. Eventually, the greatest concern is to mitigate the impact emotionally with my family because it's as tough on them as myself. Then you also have to, display strength and positivity to keep things afloat.
Well, of course. So, Mei Ting, let's go back to you. Victims of sexual abuse often feel stigmatized if they speak up. Was that something you were afraid of? And what's your advice for someone who's in that situation? How would you encourage them to tell somebody about it?
Yes, definitely. I was afraid on others people's judgment. After sharing at first, I was a bit worried on how my friends will react when they read the news and whether I'm able to handle it well. I was talking to a close friend about it, and she was reassuring me by directing me back to my aim. She reminded me that I cannot be responsible for the reactions of others, but I can take control of my actions and be prepared for the outcome. My encouragement would be take baby steps. Sometimes it will seems to be one step forward, two steps backward. Be patient with yourself. It takes time, and the road of recovery is very long. The amount of time for recovery depends on each individual, and do not feel pressurized to say everything at one go. If possible, talk to a counselor to work things out that who's that trusted person could be for you. The most important thing I feel is you must believe that you have the right to pursue healing and justice for what has happened, and no one has the right to abuse you.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Mei Ting. So, Carnage, let's wrap up the interview with you. You majored in mechanical engineering and you expressed a passion for planes as well. I understand that you and your company are currently developing a solar-powered plane next. So, tell us more about that and what other plans do you have for the future?
Yeah, so my strength lies in being innovative and being able to provide solutions. So I felt that since that's my strength, I should do something in the line. And building a solar power plane was a long-term dream project for me, and I felt that I should do it regardless the high chance of risk and failure. So I mean, I could have joined the company and started working, but I felt this was more fulfilling for me to do while taking treatment at the same time.
Right. Well, Mei Ting and Carnage, thank you so much for your time. Overcoming those adversities, especially at such a young age, is truly inspiring. Now, the Gen Grit Award celebrates young people like you who have shown courage and resilience in difficult times.